right, we got the whole crew here today. So we got Kate, Brandon, and Dave. We're all here to talk a little bit about time management and how time doesn't necessarily equal effort. So whether that's with training or with just maybe any endeavor that we're kind of taking on in life, that time doesn't always necessarily equal like effort or a result. There's, what is it? The 10,000 hours to become a master. Who came up with that? Do you remember, Dave?
Malcolm Gladwell?
Yes. Malcolm Gladwell. Well, I think that is, it's a very easy thing to kind of cite. And obviously if you spend that type of time on any type of skill or anything, you're going to more than likely get better. It's not necessarily just the time. I know a lot of people who have driven for a long time and they're not great drivers. So I think that's always an easy analogy to kind of use, like, yeah, you've been driving for 40 years and you're terrible at it. So time doesn't always necessarily equal effort, but I think in the same token too, like we have to look at, different parts of our life to, there's different seasons to things. So, we were kind of talking about this last night where, whether it's like competition, like I've been doing CrossFit for a long time. Like the way I perform in CrossFit right now isn't, as at a high level as what I was doing, say 10 years ago. And it's not because I've spent less time doing it. It's just a different season too. And like as parents and different things, like you have more time for your business or kids, or, there's different priorities through, just through your lifetime. But the focus is kind of what I really wanted to get into today, is like how we focus our time, effort, and energy, is really, we're going to get a lot more impact out of that thing that we're working on if we're very focused, rather than kind of, we were even getting into it in maybe 2 podcasts ago where we try and multitask a million things. Like I'm working on this, that, and the other thing, kind of like a one-man band, and you're not really getting better at anything. You're just barely managing everything. So like hitting things more with like a sniper rifle. I think that can apply to exercise, life, all different types of things.
Yeah, I was going off on rants because I contact like potential new members, and I was doing phone calls with them. And I think it's kind of like
I get to hear about this a lot.
I call and complain sometimes afterwards to Brandon. So I was calling everyone, but what they do is they put me on mute, and they put me on mute so they can start typing and doing other things. And I can tell they unmute me because they take about like 5 seconds, and then they're like, I can tell they haven't paid attention to anything I've really said, or just half. And then they're like, yes. But they send in the inquiry. They want to know information about the gym, cost, this, that. But then they're not really paying attention because we're all trying to do, and I'll do this too, like you're trying to scroll through, like you want to show me something, but it's kind of interesting, but not that interesting. So I'm going to keep shopping on my site. Well, I'm kind of listening to that, but then I kind of don't listen. So I need to ask questions about it. And it's just our attention. We wonder why we're all ADD. I think that's part of it. Like we have lost the art of focusing on like one thing at a time and truly being present. And I mean, I can say like it's the younger generation, but it's us, it's us too. Where if you can just be present for that specific period of time, I was watching Chelsea work out in the gym yesterday, and it made me really like think about this, because she's really concentrating on every muscle group she's working. She's like all in and focused for that period of time. She's not doing like 50 other things. It's not for like speed and get it in. It's just like she's engaging that muscle group. And that's a lot of like bodybuilding. It's just like getting your mind to that muscle and really trying to connect with that. But what if we use that and applied that to like when we're working, or when we're with like our spouse or our kids, or we're just like right there, we're all like engaged, and we get the most out of that. And you probably don't need to spend that much time. And it's not like it's so much effort. It's just being present. It's just not trying to like kind of not commit. I think maybe we all have commitment issues because of it.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Wow, I went deep. I don't know how I got there.
No, this kind of reminds me, someone I've just heard in the space. He's a college professor and he's like a computer science guy, but he's written a number of books, and every time one comes out, he kind of does like a media or podcast circuit. But his name's Cal Newport, and some of his books are about, like, the latest one was like, it's basically called deep work. It's exactly what we're talking about now. It's like you can do work where you're just kind of switching tasks or multitasking, doing a bunch of things, and you're staying busy, but you're not getting shit done.
Yeah.
It's like there's a difference between work or doing, just looking busy and doing deep work. And deep work is essentially like that's the only thing you're doing. Right? Phones, like, have a computer, shut down the internet. Like, don't just focus on the thing you're doing. You're going to get it done faster. You're going to get more out of it. And you're going to be focused on it a lot better. So to your point, like, if you could bring it back to the 10,000 hours, just because you were, sitting down to do a task for 10,000 hours or someone else who was deeply focused on it, that's the main thing. Like, you can literally just accumulate time, but what was that time spent doing? Was it like focused work or just like, no, I did an hour of, I sat here, it's accumulating my 10,000 hours. It really doesn't matter. It's the focus you bring to it, which is kind of like, I think some of that, it's a good marketing pitch, and that 10,000 hours thing kind of works, but it's like, I won't say it's debunked because it wasn't really a scientific thing, but it's kind of been debunked a little bit because it really depends on the amount of focus you do on it.
100%.
On the task you're doing, not just the time accumulated, sitting down in front of the thing or practicing it. It's really about the focus you can bring towards it.
Yeah. This kind of reminds me, I just remember, like when the kids were real little, I was reading a lot of books on like infants and stuff. And there was some sort of research, something that's like, you need to spend just 20 minutes of like making eye contact with your baby every day. 20 minutes is really what they need. Just that like focused energy all on them, and they feel really good. But you can spend 8 hours with them. You're just watching TV, you're on your phone, and they don't get that sort of connection. But they like have done studies where just how you are connected with your child, how your brains get connected, your limbic system gets connected. And I think you can apply that to like partners, friendships, like anything. If you can really be present, people really feel that. If you're always distracted, you really notice that. And I know, this is kind of coming towards like going towards the workouts and focusing there. But I think what's more important is our relationships in life anyways.
Yeah. With, you can certainly apply that to friendships and relationships, or, there's, say like friendships, like maybe you spend a lot of time with people, but you're not doing anything in like a focused manner to like go out and have fun or like deepen that relationship. It's just like, I don't know, some dude who's like at the end of the bar that he's just like cheers. Like cheers. Like I've spent, half my life with that guy, and you barely remember his name, and he's just at the end of the bar. Like, that's not like a deep friendship necessarily. Like, you're not getting that deep into it. I think where obviously I always like to kind of go is relate it back to the gym. And I think sometimes what the trackers and a lot of the steps and even the heart rate monitors and the calories do, I saw, especially with like some like really like analytical people, they started like rethinking what they were doing in CrossFit. And I'm like, you're getting off on there. They were like I had a guy who was like trying to give me like programming recommendations to keep like our heart rates. Like, he was like, at Orange Theory, I get this many calories burnt, and here it's this. I'm like, we're doing very, very different things here. And, you could say, like if you walk for, 5 miles and it takes you, hour and 15 minutes, 90 minutes, long time. Like, I exercise for 90 minutes and I had this many steps. Or if you ran a really hard 5K and it took you 20 minutes, you're like, I just exercised for 20 minutes. That's a really easy analogy to just be like, okay, obviously you're going to get a really different result stimulus. And then someone who's doing that regularly, their bodies are going to look a lot different. One's going to be a lot more athletic and performance driven, and someone else is just, they're walking a lot. There's a lot of crackheads who walk 5 miles a day,
Longer.
It's longer. They're not necessarily getting
there's a time and place for both.
100%. There's nothing wrong with that long walk, but it's a really easy way to show like a focused, determined workout is, going to be more effective than, just a longer one. My personal example is just my transition from like a traditional Globo gym into CrossFit. And I typically went to the gym and I was trying to work out for performance, and I was starting to do like some of the moves that we did in here. And the workouts would take me around 90 minutes, where I'd be at the gym around 90 minutes, at least over an hour every time, like doing different moves and then kind of jogging at the end, maybe doing some abs. And then I remember when I kind of transitioned into really doing focused CrossFit, like when I figured out how you were supposed to do it. I remember kind of knowing what it was and trying the moves. When I figured out, you're supposed to race these like workouts and do these. And I remember doing like a little 3-day training mini cycle. It was like a Fran, a Diane, which is both are 21, 15, 9. It's thruster pull up for Fran, and then deadlift handstand push up for Diane. And then it was like a main site workout that was like a 400 meter run, and I did it on a track, and then 21 burpee jump and touch. And I think I like set something up, target on like a football goalpost. Yeah. I did those 3 days in a row, and I just remember like when I was doing workouts like that, my body just transforming. And these workouts, I mean, the 21, 15, 9 ones were, 5 minute, sub 5 minute workouts or around that amount of time. And then the other one was, I don't know, some sort of like 18-minute workout maybe. I was young and didn't need a huge warm up. So I wasn't spending a ton of time, but man, were these, and people can't work out that hard all the time. I was just going
to say, you can't, that's the problem.
That was a super potent dose, like too much. It was just me kind of being.
And you're young and you're recovering.
But, it's a balance.
Yeah. But it was just showing it showed me like, oh man, I don't need to be in the gym for 90 minutes. I could have pulled a little off, it could have been, as you age, you're going to pull, the
intensity comes
back. You're going to pull some of that intensity off of that. But again, you don't need the 90 minutes of constant movement and all of that.
Yeah, some things are coming up, as you're talking about this. It's like, even if you're young, but especially as you get older, taking all that work and crunching it in 10 minutes to a really intense period could be okay once, twice a week. But to do that every day does take a whole, hard cardio is hard on the body, right? I mean, whether it's a body weight workout or lifting weights and doing, Olympic lifting and different modalities, time and place for it, you can kind of modulate that intensity. The idea of just being efficient with your time in the gym, right? So sometimes you can, rest is nice and you need to stretch things out a little bit between sets, especially if you're lifting heavier, but to kind of just, take an hour workout and stretch it and do it 2 hours just because you're just kind of lollygagging or walking around or kind of bullshitting. It's fine, I guess, but just there's much more to life than doing and spending 2 hours at the gym. You could spend half that time of just focused effort getting your work done. And so, on the other end too, is maybe you are working efficiently for an hour and a half, 2 hours. At some point, unless you are taking some steroids or something that's helping you recover, or you're super young, or you're training for some kind of show or whatever, it's a lot of junk volume.
Yeah.
Oh, you just 100%. Do not need that. At some point, if you, for me, about at least in one period of time, an hour of focused work with a little bit of rest, maybe some supersets, that's good for me.
Yeah.
100%.
If I'm just doing some resistance training, maybe later in the day, if I want to throw it in like a little 20, 30-minute light cardio piece, I'll do that. But just like an hour at a time is good enough for me. If I start stretching that too much longer, it just, I don't know, I'm just kind of dragging the next day or dragging later.
Yep.
Like, so about an hour for me is good. And I think like that's
same.
not for everyone, but like that's a good balance for me.
I think the big thing, you know, and we were saying like there's a time and a place for everything. I just see that it's great we have technology and I have my Apple Watch and whatever, but I feel like as a whole, we're moving more and more away from our own intuition and what we need and more towards diagnostic testing and you've got your Whoop, you've got your Apple Watch. What is your recovery rate? What does your blood work say? And we're like moving so far away from just developing an intuition with ourselves. And then I'm saying there's a time and place for everything. Where hey, our body's off. We need to see what's going on, but our bodies have this really strong ability to heal, and they want to heal if we can learn to kind of tap into what is it saying. What is it saying? How do I feel? Do I feel exhausted? Freaking rest. How, like, what does that mean? Does that mean more sleep? Does that mean less exercise? Does that mean less volume? You know, what is my body saying to me? And try to really tap into that and then decide how that looks instead of like writing it out on a piece of paper like it's not you, like you're a robot. And I think we get too married to an idea, even workout to workout, where like I came in today, I didn't realize how tired I was until I started moving. I was like, shit, okay, I'm just going to back this off. And a lot of times that just means a lower heart rate. I know my body so well. I knew my max heart rate was 147 in my workout, which is not shit. And it was a 12-minute workout. That's where I was today. I was like, hey, this is all I have to push. It's fine. I have a workout I want to do tomorrow that's hard. I'm not going to push that hard today. And you have to just be able to discern that instead of being like, you suck. You got to do this today. Like there's got to be days where you don't do that. And you have to pick and choose, especially as you get older, but really at any age. And then we wonder why our adrenals are screwed and this is screwed up. And, you know, and that those are markers you can check, but I always kind of go back to like after I did shows and I had my adrenals tested and I had friends that were getting their thyroid tested and I didn't want to dive into that because I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to let myself gain whatever I need to gain right now, relax, eat a couple cheeseburgers and let it come back. In the end, I had to mess with my body way less to kind of get it to normalize. I just needed to be patient than getting on this thyroid drug, this to help with my adrenals, this to help with this. And then all that screwed them up later, 2 or 3 years down the line when they wanted to get pregnant or change something else. And I think, you know, if we can develop that intuition, we might have to be patient, but our bodies want to heal and they want to feel good. And I think, you know, and this goes for coaches too. And this is what I do for a living. I help people, but I'm trying to help them find their own voice instead of everybody else telling you what to do. Try to really go in and find that within yourself and maybe use this education and these resources and, hey, like I did this or this worked for me and figure out what works for you. But I think we're so far removed from hearing what we need to do because there's all this chatter all the time, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the constant monitoring, like whether it's Whoops or just different heart rate monitors and your HRV and your strain score and stuff, it's not bad, but at some point you could just be too dependent upon that as like a measurement of like, this thing is telling me how I feel rather than, like you said, just more intuition, just going by your gut feeling that day. And like sometimes too, again, this is not a knock against it. Like I just don't use that stuff that much. I'm just not that organized about it. I've just kind of always gone on feel and it's kind of worked out okay. It doesn't mean you shouldn't like maybe now and again do some blood work or get like a stress test or, you know, do a VO2 max test. Some of that stuff's nice now and again, but there's like a constant daily monitoring. It can take away from really just doing the effort. You know, and honestly too, like sometimes people will talk about this stuff. I'm like, all right, well, you've got all this data. Like, are you doing anything about it? Like, or is it just more things to worry about that you don't do anything about? Right. If I have a Whoop that gives me all those, like my sleep score and stuff like that, like if you're not going to do anything about it and use that data to make actual changes, then I don't want to say what's the point, but like, it's just another thing to kind of worry about that, like
just in the background.
Yeah, just like, oh no, like, but like use it, do something about it, and use that data to like make some changes.
Go to bed earlier.
Yeah, but if it's just like if it's just the kind of, I don't want to say look cool. I'm talking like an asshole now. Like I'm not against it, but that stuff is there to give you feedback to hopefully apply it to training in your lifestyle to create change. But if it just gives you more shit to worry about, what's the point of like having it?
Right. It stresses me.
It's just a band that doesn't keep
time. Well, and that's part of why I don't want to see it.
Because I think it'll make me not sleep.
I'm like, no shit. I slept horribly. I know that. Like I knew that today too. I was just like hoping somehow when I started moving, I'd feel good. But I'm like, I've been up since 4:30. I don't want to be, but I just am.
All those tools are, again, if they're used in a focused way, and then for your personality, it works well too, where you can take that information and you can make adjustments on it. A lot of times for me, I think what it would do is it'd make me overthink what I was about to do. So like, I shouldn't do that, or I should. And I'm trying to like line up factors rather than just like, I feel good today. I can go. I remember getting a blood test through, it was a guy who used to be at the gym. He worked for a blood testing company that had an app, and they tested, it was a million things. And he's like, hey, we're doing this. And it was a pretty cool, like,
I think I got it done too.
Yeah, you got it done too. And then I think the whole thing was like, then an app, he was kind of trying, I think they used it maybe at CrossFit New England for a small amount of time.
Always to sell something, so where's the pitch?
Yeah, so then you would use an app, and then the app would give you like a workout plan, which I'm like, we couldn't use it for the gym because I'm like, this is not something that like, okay, do this work. I'm like, I want people to do these workouts, not this workout here. And then it would maybe try and sell you like, put you on an auto renewed like supplement to fix whatever issues. But I remember getting this blood panel, and I can definitely say that summer, and when I got it, I would probably say I was in the best shape of my life for this continuous time.
That was like during my eye surgery. So I think we were being like really, really careful with our bodies.
We weren't drinking. I was working out really hard, but like, again, I wasn't working out long periods of time. I was just like every CrossFit class I took, I was going hard, no extra work, eating clean, sleeping well, not drinking. About
no 30. Eating after dinner. I don't think you ate after dinner during that time.
I felt fantastic. I think I ran one of my best 5Ks in the summer shred. Took that blood work, and then just most of the stuff was good. I had good blood work, but then some of the stuff was like, a little off here or there.
It's just I think it's always your cholesterol is a touch high, which is a little genetic, and then it was like your free testosterone was a little low, but your other markers were okay.
Yeah, but I was like I feel fantastic, and I'm lean, and I'm performing like.
But it got in your head.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, how do I fit? I'm like, well, I don't really need to this is like, this baseline is as good as it gets for me. Like, this is the best I've ever felt as an adult. Like, let's not take a bunch of pills and try and fix this problem that's not broke. So for me, that's where those like tools can kind of like. Just the way my brain works,
and
it's not the best.
I really, we've all been in this industry for a while, and I've seen this like from a company, Lifetime Fitness, that was private, that went public, and how they changed a lot of how they operated and worked with people. And I just can't help but think every new thing that comes out is just an effort to sell more shit. And it just makes me mad. So when we started selling blood testing at Lifetime, I was like, hey, I don't believe in this, because they can go to their doctors and get this for free. We're charging $1,100. Well, we're selling that in efforts to sell more of these supplements to help them with that, so they don't have to get on medication, which I kind of get what they're doing, but I don't believe it's from like an altruistic standpoint. I think it's
not.
Just to make more money. And they got 90% margins on that, Where if we sell personal training or nutrition, that's actually just going to get that blood work to rectify itself. They make like 10 to 15% margins. So we had to sell these blood tests. And if we didn't sell these blood tests, then you got punished. So I would have to go like listen to more seminars. So I'd have to sell a blood test, or I'd have to go.
You'd have to get education.
I was so mad. Dan still remembers.
Re-education program.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what it was.
I stood up in the middle of this conference. Dan will never forget this. And I'm like, I went off on this guy.
Dan was working.
Like, you're going to sit me in a room for 8 hours to make me listen to this. And I went off. And they're like, who is this chick? And they're like, yeah, that's Kate. She brought in 20 grand last month. And, you know, then of course they didn't care. It's just all about money. And it's what matters to some degree if you're running a business, but it shouldn't be the focus. And even with that blood work there, my adrenals were in the tank.
You should tell Boeing about this.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, back.
So they wanted to sell, they wanted me to get on the supplements. So I believed in the supplements, that it was like some sort of cortisol this and some sort of cortisol that. And they're like, we'll pay for your supplements for you to do it. And you believe in it, then you'll sell it. And I'm like, you know what will help is if I stop acting like a psychopath, doing, 2 cardio workouts every day, 1 weight training workout every day, then I'll sleep at night because I'm not so fucking hungry if I eat a little bit more. And then I won't need 2 venti Starbucks every day, which is all jacking up my adrenals. Yeah. Instead of doing all of that plus these supplements, how about I just start with less workouts, more food, more sleep, and it will just naturally rectify itself. And I think there's a time and a place to spend resources, but I think if it comes from fear, it doesn't make sense. And I just feel like that's kind of like where the health industry has moved a little bit more. Like it's this fear-based. Now they're maybe it's almost like the industry's moved towards maybe you have your body's not regulating your blood sugars well, so you need to be on Ozempic, and like almost like justifying that. And it's gross to me.
Yeah. Kind of the time versus everything that we were talking about before is like, I think sometimes when you start off getting into like, weight training and fitness and stuff, you see your capacity and your abilities, increase, right? So like maybe at the beginning, you can only stand a half hour of working out and you're just dead tired, you're just sore for a week. And then as you get better, you have more experience, you can accomplish more and you're able to do more. But the trick is like, at some point there's diminishing returns. Everyone hits a ceiling, right? And more isn't always better. There's no infinite growth. At some point you reach a limit of like how much your training can be in a day or a week or a month. And, when you've been in as long as we have, like sometimes you just think you can keep on accomplishing more and more, packing more in a day, but it's kind of like, and you want to do it because it's exciting and becomes your life. And maybe you work in a gym and that's, it's right here. It's like an alcoholic working in a bar. It's like, I could just go over here and start doing something, but you kind of mentally have to like really hold yourself back from doing it because like, you can't just keep doing more and more and expect like, infinite growth.
Yeah.
Like you have to almost just be happy with your sets and reps and work you did that day, whether it's an hour and a half of work, and just don't keep pushing it too much.
Success.
And that's a success, like you said. And it's, especially if you're noticing that other things are kind of falling apart, relationships, your sleep, you're just, your eating's all off, and just and being able to pay attention to that stuff, like I said, and just being happy and just knowing that like an hour is good. Hour and a half is great. Right. That's fine. I don't need any more.
I think it's like, it's tough because we're part of the aging population in a gym that, maybe I see the younger people and they're more vibrant, and there's older people in our community too, but being like just staying focused on what is good for you and where you're at and what your goals are during that time. And if you can kind of have that, like, instead of thinking, I'm just old, I'm just here surviving, like, okay, during this period, like personally right now, I just want to try to like get my body strong this year. That's my focus. And then, in a shorter period of time, lift as much weights as I can before we're going to go to Europe for 12 days. And there's going to be just some bands we use. So just focusing on that and having that be the success instead of like, hey, I see this person doing all these workouts, or I'm not doing enough, or man, I'm weaker than I used to be. You got to look at like where you're at right now, what you can do, and being okay with that, because otherwise it can just be a huge mind F, you know?
The younger guys in CrossFit, obviously there's a certain amount of volume required literally to be that good. But even those guys and girls in their 20s and 30s, like early 30s, like there comes a point where you're going to get burned out of doing too much. But I think like even more so as you get into the later masters groups, like at that point, like obviously you have to have a good capacity and you have to have your skills down and be strong. But at that point too, it's also about staying healthy. And if you just
That's most of it.
Yeah. You may be better off in the long run and more accomplished if you dial back your training 20% and just be okay with it.
Yeah.
And just stay in it and like not be so inflamed all the time and not like overworked, or like, if you do have a whoop, like, or whatever HRV, it's not always so red and yellow. Like, just do, again, this is all up here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your body's feeling it, but it's being able to be okay with that. Like, I'm just not able to do that much volume the older I get. So just being happy and content and feeling like I'm making progress and being very consistent to it, towards like a 9-month goal of making the games next year if I'm a 45-year-old athlete.
Yeah.
Not trying to pack it all in too early. I mean, I could probably, say that for a lot of people too. So
you got to hit it more with a sniper rifle instead of a shotgun. Like you have to, keep the rust off, hit focus sessions. And instead of doing everything in one session, like how when you're younger, you do like half of CrossFit A day.
I've never done that.
Half of CrossFit B day. You split it up into 5 days where you're hitting like 2 or 3 things, 2 or 3 things, 2 or 3 things each day. And you're only, brushing that skill once a week instead of like, I did ring muscle ups, twice this week. You're hitting it like once a week or twice a month, like you're hitting things less frequently, but like more focused. Like when you hit it, like you have to do it in a very focused manner. So as you get older, I think you just have to spread things out more. I hate to use this analogy. I talk because it's probably like the only cool thing I feel like I've done in the last couple of years with training, but like that boxing match that I did, all I did was I had that coach come in. We did a 30-minute mid session, very focused. And it was 10 straight rounds, running combos. And then I went to a gym once a week, and it was, I was in and out in an hour.
But if you were
twice a week.
If you were single, you would have trained twice as much, because you started freaking out, saying how you needed to go there, you need to train more. And I was like, oh, how? Your shoulders like barely holding on right now. You're like, no, but I think the other guys are. The other guys are, and that guy that I'm boxing, I know he is. He's 27. It wasn't that you were that confident and you knew like this is what I needed. It was because I literally was like, we will divorce if you train more. So you choose.
But it worked. It was very focused, 2 efforts. And then I stayed.
We're not saying this is easy at the time.
But then it was like a track workout, 2 CrossFit workouts. That was my 5 days a week. I was in great shape, but like my training time day to day was never like over an hour. I wasn't training like this huge rocky, like 3-hour training. So every day was just like a focused thing. And I was just like dialed in though. It wasn't like a lot of sloppy, like work. Like when I was younger in college, again, I trained boxing, they'd be these like 2-hour sessions. We'd be doing sloppy sparring and like just kind of junk work. And like, I was very focused and like, I'm working.
Yeah.
I was coaching for Oscars baseball at the time. Like, my time was tight. So like, it was like, okay, I got to like coach my class and then, do the work and then go coach Oscars baseball. And, I had to schedule out each thing like very.
And I think this can be applied, and I'm just kind of relating this now to like work in your career, because it's something that I'm starting to have conversations with some of my clients that are a little older, and they don't appreciate it because it's kind of this old school mindset. You work 40, 50 hours a week and then you retire. And some of them that are getting closer to retirement, I'm like, wouldn't it make sense to you, instead of just going from like this full pack schedule to nothing, you start to back off as you get older. And I really feel that as like, as we get older, if we want to stay, I feel like that's why we've been able to stay in this industry and not just totally get burnt out. Is I'm like, I don't have it in me to work that much. I will do a great job for literally like 4 hours, and then I can answer emails and do this stuff on my own time. But I just don't have it in me. It's a very intense environment, which I love, but I don't have that much time in me. And I think if you're looking at like career and you're looking at work, I think, you know, your years of just grind, or you like your 20s, maybe a little bit into your 30s, but then there needs to be a natural progression where you like slow down a little, become more skilled at your craft, and have less hours. So you can't sustain that. And I think that's why you see burnout. That's why I think, you know, you see people kind of hop job to job to job, because it's too much. It's not natural for us. And I think, you know, it's just like really trying to feel that instead of looking at like what everyone else is doing, or this will make me look this way. Like what feels good and what feels healthy. And any sort of transition that's also like going for women. I think going back to work, I think 0 to 60 does not make any sense. Why take 3 full months off and then go back 8 hours a day when you could maybe even start back like after a couple of weeks, like an hour or two, then add on another hour, just like really naturally like ramping back up. But I think in general, if you can be focused and you can look at improving your quality over time, you need less time. Yep. And you don't have it in you as your body gets tired to put in that same time. So if you want to keep doing everything you love, you got to find a way to do it in a way that you can sustain.
What did Stanley say in The Office? Like, do you remember when we were watching that a little while ago, and he was just like, can't you just like be like the rest of us and like die of a heart attack when you're like 60, you know? Like, it was something like that, like work yourself to death and then die of a heart attack.
I literally thought that's what was going to happen to my dad if he didn't like quit. I mean, and it is, yeah, I just think just to like be able to take that in every area of your life and feel what feels healthy for you. And most jobs now, what's neat is they will have more flexibility. Yeah. Like almost everyone has more flexibility, whether, you know, it's Mallory we're talking to, I think she could work from home or just, you know, kind of just working with what makes you feel good, as long as you get a certain amount of work done. And we're doing this podcast based off another podcast that kind of gave us inspiration. And I think she used there was some sort of measure where like most people, and it is supposedly a 40-hour week, really only put in like not even 4 hours. It was like 3 hours and like 48 minutes of work every day. And I know that's all I have in me. And then I'll kind of laugh about it, but I'm like, it's real. It's true. And yeah, okay, you take your lunch break, you're scroll on Instagram, you do this, and you might be available for questions or whatever, but does that really work? Or, just being honest with yourself too about what you can actually do and put in, and then you can really use all that energy and make a difference.
Yeah.
And I think that's, with workouts too, just like not fighting yourself, whether it's a day you have a little bit less energy, so you don't go long and you don't get your heart rate up. That probably is what your body needed that day, so you can come back and hit it when it matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Doing more focused stuff in general, I think, is the theme. Like whatever we're getting into, like being more focused with it. And, I'm trying to apply that more at home. Sometimes I'll get home and the phone is such a blessing and a curse now, where it's like, I want to like entertain myself when I get home on the phone, but it's like, put that thing away and then go play with the kids and actually be have a focused, fun time with them. And then when you want to...
The afternoon is when I send you a lot of Instagram.
It is. That's when me and Dave send each other stuff.
Now you need to work on your relationship with Dave.
I know.
That's how men communicate.
Exactly. Through memes. Yeah. And then when I want to then let's, maybe after dinner, watch a show and actually watch a continuing arc of a TV show and get into something. And it feels better when you're doing that rather than just scrolling through
5 screens up.
Yeah.
Phone,
just
laptop, TV.
You don't remember any of it, an hour later, and you're just like, that's not good. So I think I think the theme is like just whatever you're doing, do it well and with a little more focused, and you'll be a happier, healthier, more productive person. But we'll be taking next week off. We'll be back for a week or two, and then we'll have a couple weeks off here in the summer, kind of sprinkled in with people on vacations and some stuff. So you'll see podcasts popping back up for 2 weeks, taking a week off, then like 3 weeks, taking a week or two off. But we'll be on a good rhythm, and we'll make sure we're posting older podcasts, because a lot of the people who are listening now maybe didn't start with us at the beginning. So in the newsletters, you can look forward to, I'm going to go ahead and bring back some of the really old ones from like 2018 that some of you guys haven't listened to that I think were really, really good. So I'll be popping those back on, but we will see you not next week, the following week. See you.
See you guys.